Hi, I'm Mike Dano with Light Reading, and we're here at the big Network X event in sweaty, hot Texas. But I'm here with Mike Thelander, I would say one of the premier voices in 5G. I mean, certainly your research over the past few years has really helped the rest of us understand what is actually happening with 5G. I mean, over the years, your company, Signals Research Group, has tested standalone 5G. I mean, you've done mid-band tests, right? Like you've done a lot of different tests to see how this technology is actually being deployed. And famously, you're the guy who turned off
I did.
5G, I think it was last year.
I turned it off in October.
On your personal phone.
On my personal phone, yes.
So I guess the question for you is, where are we in 5G? Like, how are you feeling about it now? What are you expecting next? But most importantly, are you still off of 5G?
Sure.
Okay.
So the reason I turned off 5G really had nothing to do with 5G. It happens to do more so with where I live. And so my operator is AT&T, and I've been somewhat vocal about that. I think you wrote about it, that you
Yes,
acknowledged
I thought that was
AT&T.
very interesting that you turned it off.
The problem isn't so much 5G by any means. It's where it was deployed, the density of coverage with LTE. So when operators first deployed 5G, they used NSA. So you need to have an LTE anchor.
Right.
The problem I have where I live is that the LTE coverage is quite poor. And on top of that, I don't have mid-band 5G. So when 5G is deployed in a lower frequency band, at best, it's no better than LTE. And so in my case, where I live at the time, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile did not have mid-band 5G. In fact, the best coverage was Dish. I had phenomenal speeds. I still have phenomenal speeds in my house from Dish, and I live 15, 20 miles west of Minneapolis. So anyway, backing up. So where I live, I have no mid-band 5G. And then on top of that, so AT&T will try to push me to 5G, and it's 5G in band 5, which is a lower frequency band. One of the limitations with phones today is that you can't support two low-band frequencies. And so to have a low-band 5G, you need to be on a mid-band LTE anchor, where the LTE anchor, that coverage there was really poor. And so they're pushing me to 5G, and in doing that, they push me up to the LTE mid-band. I have a poor connection there, and because of that, 5G fails. And so what I did on my phone is I actually went in and I disabled 5G, but by doing that, it actually allows the phone to go from a mid-band LTE signal to a low-band LTE signal.
That is more stable.
It's more stable, and it works. But that happens, that's really nothing to do with 5G per se. I've had that problem even when 5G doesn't exist, is that I will be somewhere where there is relatively poor coverage on a low-band LTE signal. The mid-band, or the higher frequencies, it's even worse. Obviously, it's a higher frequency band. Signals don't propagate as far. And so I'll watch my phone, and it's being pushed to that higher frequency band. And that makes no sense. So that's really not so much the fault of technology, of 5G or 4G. It's really how operators try to prioritize their traffic. And yes, it makes sense to push all your traffic to that higher frequency band, but only if you have a good signal. And in my case, in a lot of cases, everywhere I went, I didn't. And so I was basically stuck with no 5G, no 4G. I turned off 5G, and now I've got a mediocre, 4G signal that works relatively well.
Much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, the 5G guy. These are the intricacies of actually deploying and implementing this technology. It's not just turn it on and everything works. It's how do you turn it on? How do you address previous network technologies like 4G? How does it interact? And it depends on where you are. I mean, where I live in Denver, coverage is really not too bad. We do have mid-band there now too, and it makes a big difference in the experience. I wouldn't say it's great. But it's different for each location.
And I should say now, Verizon now has mid-band 5G where I live. So it's not only that initial, I think it was 40 megahertz of spectrum, they've now added 100 megahertz of spectrum. So the other thing I did is in December, I actually cut the cord. And so I had a Mediacom 1 gigabit per second, broadband cable service. I actually cut that off. I'm now a full-time Verizon 5G subscriber.
Fixed wireless.
Fixed wireless.
Very interesting.
And I would say it's good but not great. They limit it to 300 megabits in the downlink, roughly 20 megabits in the uplink. I get that consistently all the time, but that's the limitation of the service plan.
Yeah.
If I actually take my phone and connect to the Verizon cell tower, I have seen up to a gig in the downlink. Uplink is not much better because it's the cell site is a little bit distance away. But so again, 300 down, 20 up for most applications, that's
Pretty
fine.
good. Yeah.
In fact, in some of the testing that we did, and this is testing in my house, with my 1 gig plan, you go out and you use various applications on the internet. The speeds they actually generate are well below 300. You go to Google Drive, Netflix, whatever, and you download this big file. You think it's screaming at that 1 gigabit per second. Well, it's not. It's several hundred megabits per second. So, yes, you do a speed test, you get a gig. You actually go out and do something with it.
That's not
The speeds are nowhere close to that. I would say too, though, I think the uplink for Verizon, their uplink service plan could be better.
Yeah.
20 meg is you're pretty limited there.
It's doable. It's just not.
I can survive. I wouldn't have done it had I not been a 5G guy.
Right.
And I'm hoping they will change that. There's no reason they shouldn't. I mean, the uplink usually has more capacity available anyway. So why not make it higher? If you don't get those speeds, fine. But I think 20 is a little bit on the light side.
So interesting. So the guy who's been testing 5G for many, many years now, helping the rest of us understand it, turned it off on his phone, but is a 5G fixed wireless customer.
I can't explain myself. I should say now that actually Samsung came out with a software update. So I had a third-party application that allowed me to disable and enable 5G very easily. Well, Samsung came out with a software update. That feature no longer works now. And so I could take a test tool and go in and actually disable various 5G or 4G bands, but that takes a lot of work. And so you want to be able to turn it on, turn it off as needed. And so now I'm basically stuck with 5G on, and hopefully it works where I'm at.
And maybe they'll upgrade those sites.
That's what I'm hoping, yes.
We'll
I've been told by certain operators that they have plans to upgrade, but I'm still waiting.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you've had lots of testing adventures. You've had lots of adventures with your own usage of 5G. Here at this show, you're talking about sort of where we are as an industry in 5G. And so what's like your, having been in the nitty-gritty guts, the details of 5G, like what's your assessment broadly for the 5G in the US? Where are the operators now? What should we expect in the future? Kind of what's your assessment?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk about 5G. There's a 6G summit today.
Yeah.
And the reality is there's still lots of features coming out with basic 5G that have not been deployed yet, let alone 5G advanced. So there's things that I still want to test that were part of the initial 5G standard, maybe release 15, release 16, release 17, that have still not been deployed yet. And so I think we're still very early days, both from a technology perspective, but also from a rollout perspective. So there's lots of sites out there that don't have 5G, or they have 5G low band, which is a 5G icon and nothing else.
Yeah.
So give me mid-band 5G, and I'm fat, dumb, and happy. And you can tell that says a lot. So I mean, I'm not knocking 5G by any means. The technology is there. It's how it gets deployed, how it gets enabled, by the ecosystem. So that's the operator, that's the vendor, that's the phone. There's a lot of features out there that are very compelling, especially in the uplink. We were at the Ericsson event yesterday, and Eric Ekiden was talking about the importance of the uplink. And I was talking with them, before the show there, or before the event.
This was at the Ericsson manufacturing
yes,
plant.
Exactly.
And the Ericsson CTO was talking about uplink.
Yes, exactly. And I was telling him what some of the testing we're planning on. He thought that was so important because you look at these phones out there today, there are flagship phones out there that don't support critical uplink features because maybe it was too expensive for them to deploy. But if you can double your data speeds in the uplink with infrastructure that exists today, why wouldn't you want to do it? And so you can't knock 5G as a technology if it's a chipset company, if it's a handset manufacturer, or if it's a vendor or an operator that hasn't deployed a particular feature.
All right. So really the thing is there's still work to do. We'll still get more tests from Signals Research Group. There's more testing to be done, and we'll see how it develops in the future.
Exactly.
Fair enough. All right, Mike, thanks very much. All right.